This is video 1 in a two-part training series on Performance Matters Analytics, the Comparative Results Report. So the Comparative Results Report is used to analyze student performance on multiple assessments by standard. So this is a little bit unique. The report allows for comparing student populations, teachers, and specific classes. In video 1, we're going to look at an overview of the report. We're going to just hit again on saving test ID numbers, which I go through in every video, and using the demo mode. The purpose of the report and the differences it has from other reports, I'm going to compare it to student item analysis, selecting multiple assessments in the report, and then finally comparing the standards across multiple assessments. All right, we're going to hop over into Performance Matters. Now, as a reminder, I already have it on, but demo mode is up there under your initials. It should be red if you're showing to other people. That means demo mode is on. All right, you always want to turn demo mode on before you go into a report, because if you do it after, it will clear your report. So we're going to now go to the Reports tab and Comparative Results. You'll see it brings up a blank template that we can build once we add some tests. Now I'm also going to bring up Student Item Analysis in another tab, just so for comparative purposes. And as a reminder, it's good to always have your test IDs handy, because test IDs help you find tests much easier. So we're actually going to take a look at some 4th grade English tests from CIP. And again, I just jump around and use all different types of tests when doing training videos. So I have the test ID, it's 2411686. I'm going to launch it up in the student item analysis. Here it is. And I'm also going to come over here and add it to the comparative results. So 2411686. And there it is. All right, now you'll immediately notice when I launch it up in comparative results, you get some performance band bars, just like we've seen before. Over here, we see colors, the red, yellow, and green. Now, it means different things at different times. So coming over to the student item analysis, I'm going to take a look at the performance bands tab. And just as a reminder, we have a set performance band. This is the default for the division. There are a few others you can choose from, but the reason we use this as the default and the reason it is on CIP assessments is because all CIP schools use the same bar, performance band, for all their different tests. And the purpose of that is so that we can compare our school and our performance against all CIP divisions. So everyone uses the same thing. So it just helps when we just stick to the standard. It just makes everything comparable. So you have the emerging band from 0 to 59.9, the developing band from 60 to 69.9, and then the proficient band, which is the green band. Now you'll see performance. Notice the total performance is a 52.48, so 52.5. And that's the average score across all students, because students that performed in the red band had 37, students that performed in the yellow band had an average of a 64, and in the proficient band an 82. But this is key, that 52.5. We come over to comparative results, and that's exactly what we see for this total test, 52.5. And you'll notice this bar shows a 52.5 as well. So it just kind of shows where the average score falls within the band. So that's important to understand what this report is showing. It's showing the average score and how it falls within the band. And as we go down, you'll see now it breaks it down by standard. So you have 4.4a, 4.4b, and it tells you how many questions were on that standard for the test that we've selected. So that's kind of one of the main differences, is it's really a quick visual of standards. And you can quickly scroll down, up and down, and see this is the whole test. But then we can see on this standard, the performance was still in the emerging, but a little bit higher, versus like 4.5. A is in the developing, almost into the proficient. Whereas, this one's 2 questions, but the performance is fairly low, versus like 5 questions. That gives you a pretty good sample size, and the performance is still low, but we're getting close to that developing category. So the unique thing about the comparative results and why it's important to use and how it uses different information is you can add multiple tests to this. You can't do that in the student item analysis. You can just look at one test at a time, because this is a breakdown of that specific test, student responses, and the questions and all that. Comparative results is a bigger picture view, but it can still be useful to teachers. So let me add in the second quarter benchmark, because what it's going to do is it's going to combine them together And if there are any questions that use the same standard, let's look at 4.4b, see how it's 5 items. Well, let's add in the second one. I do have the code, but you'll notice it just pulls up tests that were very similarly named, so I can just click it and add it. And now notice 4.4b now has 8 items. That's because there are 8 items across these two assessments. And so we can now look at a combined performance. So across both of these assessments, the average was a 56.2. Hasn't changed much, but when we look at specific standards, there have been some significant changes. And so 8 items is a pretty good sample size. And this would work for even more assessments. So if you do like common formative assessments where you give maybe 5 in a certain 9 weeks, you could compare all 5, and that would give you a big sample size for standards that show up quite often. And so you can see 4.4b, very, very close to the developing yellow area, versus 4.4c is only 3 items, but a little lower. And so you can kind of scroll down. 1 item, not as great of a sample size. But you can quickly just see how students are performing across both of these benchmarks. And here we go. Here's one at the bottom. 4.6G is in the proficient band, so we would spend less time on that and focus our efforts more on those high sample, low performing item standards. And so, like, for example, 4.6A, there's 3 questions, and the performance is a 42%. So this would be an area that we would really want to focus on. And also some of these borderline areas that are in the developing, some interventions and specific strategies to target this standard might push you up into the proficient. And just again, this is all students that have taken this test, so this is across different teachers. And so what we'll do in the second video is come back and look at the Students tab and the Student Groups tab, as well as come down here. We will start to filter down groups to compare to, and we will add some additional filters as well. Now, before I finish this video, the last thing I just wanted to mention, some quick features. You can uncheck standards that you don't want to see. Like, let's see, I don't want to see this, that's just one question. I can uncheck it, it'll remove that. So just be aware of that. You can also change what you're looking at, so you can do depth of knowledge, taxonomy, and question interactions. Now, these are only useful if those items have these other attributes attached to them. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Standards is probably your most effective topic to keep it on or view. And then finally, you also have the Excel and PDF download up here, so it will create whatever you have on the screen, it'll create a download of that. So the PDF you might want to just use as, see, there's a good PDF that you can share with somebody. Because you'll notice this one does not have a share or save button like the student item analysis has that, where you can get a link. This one doesn't have it because it's not as refined. It doesn't go into as much detail. It's a much quicker just report to build. All right, so that concludes the first video, and we will come back and cover the video 2 topics in the next one.